The intermediate communist objective is the seizure of power and the establishment of communist government within the country. They have quite frankly told us the nature of this government that they propose to establish, and history has recorded that they have in fact established the type of government they said they would once they came to power. Lenin defined the government the communists proposed to set up as the dictatorship of the proletariat, and he wrote books describing in considerable detail just how this dictatorship was to operate. So the communists openly proclaim that they propose to set up a dictatorship once they're in power. Lenin defined the dictatorship of the proletariat as the rule based on force and unrestricted by law of the proletariat over the bourgeoisie, the rule enjoying the sympathy and support of the toiling and exploited masses. This definition is very important, so I will repeat it and then we will take it clause by clause. This is the definition given by the communists themselves of their form of government, the dictatorship of the proletariat. Quote Lenin, "The dictatorship of the proletariat is the rule based on force and unrestricted by law of the proletariat over the bourgeoisie." And he adds the corollary, "a rule enjoying the sympathy and support of the toiling and exploited masses." The first feature of this dictatorship is that it is based on force. It is government by compulsion, by coercion, not with the consent of the governed. It is a forceful, brutal dictatorship. The second feature about communist government is that it is unrestricted by law. When laws are passed and promulgated within this system, these laws do not apply to the government. They merely apply to the regulation of the conduct of the people who are under the control of communist government. This is a very sinister and serious feature of the communist system, the dictatorship of the proletariat, because the history of civilization is the restraint of government by law. Government unrestrained by law is naked tyranny. Government depends upon force. Government is force. That great American libertarian and president, Thomas Jefferson, I believe, once said, "Government, like fire, is a dangerous servant and a fearful master." In constitutional government, a constitution limits the power of government and protects certain of the rights and liberties of the citizens. This is the basic function of a constitution. It guarantees limited government. It says to the authorities, thus far you can go and no further. Where there is no limitation on the power of government, it automatically becomes a tyranny. So communism is a tyranny because the power of the government is not restricted by the law. The Soviet Union claims that it has a constitution. It has a document which it calls the Constitution of the Soviet Union. If you read this document, it reads very well indeed. It announces that the people have every conceivable liberty that they could desire. However, it is a very deceitful instrument because it is not truly a constitution, seeing it does not restrain the power of the government. Even though it calls itself a constitution, it is not such in the true sense of the word, because a constitution is something that legally restrains the government from excessive exercise of power. But in the government that the communists establish, there is no such restraint, either theoretical or practical, and they can do to the subjects of the government whatsoever they will. The rule based on force and unrestricted by law. The next important question is, who is to exercise this unlimited power? Who is to be the ruler, to use the force, to be completely free from any legal restraints? According to this definition, it is the proletariat. And the dictatorship is to be exercised by the proletariat, and the subjects of the dictatorship are to be the bourgeoisie. However, the proletariat is a very large body of people. Obviously, it cannot exercise dictatorship directly. So the Communist Party volunteers to exercise this dictatorship on behalf of the proletariat. The Communist Party believes that it's the brain of the proletariat, the mind of the proletariat, the vanguard of the proletariat, that history has appointed it to act on behalf of the proletariat, that the proletariat automatically gives the Communist Party insight into what its wishes and best interests are. So the Communist Party has the responsibility of exercising this dictatorship on behalf of the proletariat. It's very important to notice that the proletariat has no voice either in the selection of the Communist Party or in the control of the Communist Party. The people are without voice since they do not have a vote. Allegedly, this dictatorship possesses the sympathy and support of the toiling and exploited masses, but this is never indicated by allowing a free vote. The communists have never yet permitted a free vote, a truly free election in any country under their control. In 1917, the Communist Party established their dictatorship within Russia. Today, that same Communist Party exercises the same dictatorship, and no choice, no alternative is permitted to the Russian people. So the dictatorship professes to be the dictatorship of the proletariat, but actually it is the dictatorship over the proletariat exercised by the Communist Party, which is a small minority of the people. For example, today in Russia, the Communist Party constitutes only between 3 and 4% of the population of that great country. So if all the Communist Party was involved in making decisions on behalf of the people, it would still be the decision of a tiny minority, a small elite. But actually, by the structure of the Communist Party, the vital decisions are made by a tiny handful of men, and frequently by one man. So this becomes not the dictatorship of the proletariat, but the dictatorship over the proletariat, the dictatorship of the Central Committee or the Presidium of the Communist Party, finally the dictatorship of the communist dictator. So communism sets up this brutal dictatorship. It reverses the currents of history towards human liberty. It degrades the function and role of government within society. And it allegedly justifies the dictatorship by the doctrine that the Communist Party is the brain and mind of the proletariat, and the bourgeoisie is a hostile enemy force that must be destroyed before the ultimate communist objective of the regeneration of man can be attained. Now, the period of the dictatorship of the proletariat, according to communist theory, is merely a temporary state. And the name given to the system that prevails during this temporary period of the dictatorship of the proletariat is socialism, not communism. Socialism is the intermediate period in communist doctrine between the revolutionary seizure of power by the communists and the emergence of regenerate communist man. This intermediate period, with the dictatorship of the proletariat, they call socialism. This is the stage which they claim exists in Russia, in China, in other countries today, not communism but socialism. Under socialism, everybody is forced to work and work hard. They are rewarded in terms of the work that they do. The slogan of socialism, and it's important to realize that the communists use the term socialism quite differently from other people. During socialism to the communists, the slogan is, from every man according to his ability, to every man according to his work. Once this new environment created by the communists has destroyed capitalism, liquidated the remaining capitalists, the bourgeoisie, given new experiences to the babies and the young, new characters will be created, and the dictatorship will wither and die, and the classless society, with abundance, without government, with perfect happiness, will be born. This will be the era of communism. The slogan of this communist era will be, from every man according to his ability, to every man according to his need. The communist reality is dictatorship, lawless, brutal, exercised by a handful of men, and it is sustained by a promise of future perfection that will not be fulfilled.